Aloha! In this video, we'll learn ka pīʻāpā Hawaiʻi, the Hawaiian alphabet. We'll also go over the pronunciation for the various sounds you hear in ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi, the Hawaiian language. The Hawaiian alphabet begins with the 5 vowels, or vowela. A, e, I, o, u. In English, we know these as a, e, I, o, u, but let's use the Hawaiian pronunciation. A, e, I, o, u. Then we have the 8 consonants. He, ke, la, mu, nu, pi, ve, okina. And yes, in English we would say H, K, L, M, N, P, W. But again, let's use the Hawaiian pronunciation. He, ke, la, mu, nu, pi, ve, and then the last consonant, okina. Now I know the okina looks like a punctuation mark, but it is considered a consonant because it's making a sound, which we'll look at later in this video. Let's say the entire alphabet together one more time. A, e, I, o, u, he, ke, la, mu, nu, pi, ve, okina. Now let's look at the pronunciation. We already learned the vowels, but let's review them again. A, e, I, o, u. Do you hear that these are very pure sounds to the vowels with no diphthongs or gliding? Compare how we say in English, o, versus the very open Hawaiian, o. If you're familiar with Spanish or Italian, it's a very similar vowel sound. Let's try the vowels once more. A, e, I, o, u. Now I'm sure some of you have been thinking, wait a minute, I've seen some Hawaiian words with a line over the vowel. Well, that is known as the kahakō. And when a kahakō is over a vowel, what it's doing is lengthening the sound. So instead of a, you have a. Instead of e, I, o, u, u. And it is very important to lengthen those vowels when they have the kahakō, because words can take on very different meanings depending on whether or not they have the kahakō over a vowel. Here's a common example of that. Take this word, ke, a, la, a, no kahakō. It is pronounced kala, and there's a fish called kala. Now you have this word, ke, a, la, a, ko. There's a kahakō over that second a. This means the sun or the day. It is pronounced kala. Kala, kala. And now you have this, ke, a, ko, la, a, ko. This is pronounced kala, and it means dollar or money. Let's listen to the difference. Kala, kala, kala. Kala, kala, kala. And when I spelled out those words, you heard me say, ko. Well, kahakō is often shortened to ko when you're spelling words out loud. So actually, if we're spelling the word kahakō, we would say ke, a, he, a, ke, o, ko. Okay, now let's look at the consonants. He is pretty much going to be pronounced same as the English H. K is also going to be similar to the English K or C, except it's a little less aspirated. In other words, there's less air coming out. Take the word car in English. Do you hear how there's air after the k sound? Car. In Hawaiian, there's going to be less air. Ka'a, which is the Hawaiian word for car. Ka'a. Car. Ka'a. Don't worry too much if you can't hear the difference. For la, mu, and nu, you're going to use the same sounds for L, M, and N in English. You may hear some accents or dialects where la can sound a little like a soft R or D, but for your learning, just use an English L. P is going to be similar to K, where the sound is similar to English, but less air. So not poke, but poke. And then we have ve. I know a lot of you are wondering, is this letter supposed to be pronounced like an English W or a V? Is it Hawaiʻi or Hawaiʻi? And the answer is, it can be either. A lot of it depends on where you're from. So even on a single island, you may find people from one part of the island who use more of that w sound, and people from another side of the island who use more of a v sound. It's really going to be your preference. But if you do use more of a V sound, it is a softer V than in English. So not Hawaii, but Hawaiʻi. Okay, last consonant, the okina. The okina is often called a glottal stop, and the best way to describe it is with the word uh-oh. Do you hear the back of your throat closing before each of these vowels? Uh-oh, uh-oh. And just like the kahakō, it is very important to remember the okina, because if we don't pronounce the okina, the vowels will glide together when there really should be a separation of the vowel. Here's a good example of this. So, the capital of Hawaii, Honolulu, is located on the island of... Did you say Oahu? Yes, many people do say Oahu, but actually the island should be spelled okina a he u, which means it's pronounced Oahu. So you see the importance of the okina. Without it, we get Oahu, but it should really be Oahu. Maupopo, understand? Okay, the last thing we need to talk about is vowel groupings, or diphthongs. Hawaiian is a very vowel-heavy language, which means that in words and sentences, you will find vowels next to each other. And when vowels are grouped together like that, it affects the sound. So let's go through each vowel and see how the sound is affected when it's paired with another vowel. Starting with ah, we have I, ow, o, e, ea, ei, eu, eu, e, ia, ie, io, iu, o, oa, oe, oi, o, and finally u, ua, ue, ui, u. So it's important that you don't separate the vowels because there's no okina. And one thing to note, diphthongs and vowels glides happen within words and across words. So take this sentence for I go. Hele Helio. Do you hear the glide between the end of hele and o? It's not hele o because o does not have an okina. Helio. Well, thank you so much. That's our Hawaiian pīʻāpā and pronunciation guide. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in learning more of the Hawaiian language, I'm releasing a whole video series going through the basics of the Hawaiian grammar. So visit my channel for other videos. And if you want to be notified when new videos are released, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Until next time, ahui ho!